Millennium.Milestone presents a site dedicated to storytelling in books, movies, video games, and the occasional suspension of disbelief, if you can believe it. We're back on Season 2 of The Last of Us, Season 2, and I have to say, it's definitely following the beats of the original video game for the most part, and depending on who you ask, it's either a good thing or even a bad thing. Regardless of how you feel about the video game versus the series, or even how you feel about the looks of certain actors, let's try and dive into the story itself and see what we can conjure from this. You ready for that? Let's get on with it right now. So the episode begins by bringing us back to the cliffhanger at the end of Season 1's finale, where Joel reiterates that he's telling the truth about the Fireflies. Ellie accepts that and moves on. In the next scene, we return back to Salt Lake City, where we're at a burial site of fireflies that suffered as victims and casualties to Joel's rampage. The group that's there talks about who the person was that attacked them and talk about where they're going to go next. Eventually, they decide on heading over to the Washington Liberation Front, a group that is willing to take newcomers to handle their problems over in their section of the country with the infected and other groups as well. The lead female member of the group demands that they find Joel and doesn't want to give up on him, and they finally come to a consensus that maybe they'll get training over at the WLF and eventually return back to find Joel, promising that they'll kill him. The story moves 5 years later, and we're welcomed into a most amazing training montage that anyone has ever seen, where a little 5'3" little girl is taking on a mammoth of a kickboxing guy and basically taking him down and owning him into a submission. Great job with the writing so far to open this segment. Yay. I can touch the sky. I think about it. After Ellie's triumph in sparring, we're now introduced to Jesse, who is going to be a regular on the cast now, and also to where Jackson has changed since last season. It's now a thriving town with many people living there, working together to be a formidable community. We flip over to the other side of Jackson, where now we get a glimpse of Joel also adjusting to life in this new place on Jackson, helping out with restoring more homes for people now venturing into Jackson as the population is getting bigger and bigger to get away from the infected that are outside running about. We're also introduced to Dina, who is working alongside Joe, and we get a little bit more of an understanding of her character later on in the series. Gay! Yes, we know, writers. You don't need to spell it out for us. We know. We get it. Speaking of things that are actually not familiar with the game, we're now in a new scene, not exclusively in the video game, where Joel is now seated for a therapy session. And we get a little bit of a nuance as to why he's been doing this, as he's talking to Eugene's ex-wife, who in this scene is revealed that Eugene had been killed by Joel. As to why that reason is not revealed, but clearly there are deep feelings about that. And Joel, of course, is struggling to admit the reason why his relationship with Ellie is not as good as it could be right now, and we're led with more questions and answers as to what transpired. Next up, over at Ellie and Joel's home, Ellie gets a welcome visit from Dina, who asks her to go on patrol with her for no particular reason whatsoever. Absolutely none. Gay! Yes, we notice. Thank you for your input. You can put your hand down. We don't need to know anymore. The girls report for duty with Jesse in charge and venture off with the group to hunt down on patrol any likely infected that might be out in the area. They arrive at a location where there's clearly signs of infected and venture off into a building to take out a rogue clicker that's in the building at this time. Because, you know, girl power, they can handle it all by themselves. Nobody's needed for this. I believe I can touch the sky. While Dina ventures around to find a way downstairs to where Ellie is, Ellie encounters something else that hasn't been seen before for the first time. A stalker, or some kind of infected, that definitely doesn't behave like one. The creature nearly tries to take her out, but in the end, she manages to kill it and goes back to the council at Jackson to report what happened here. The scene changes over to the winter ball that Ellie goes to. Dina pulls Ellie in for a dance and for something else unexpected. What could that be? Gay! The close moment is interrupted by Seth, a local in Jacksonville, who doesn't seem to like Ellie and calls her a not so nice name, which also incurs the wrath of Joe, who tries to intervene and save her. But rather than get a thank you from Ellie, he gets this.
I don't need your fucking help.
I believe I can touch the sky.
Rather than cause another scene, Joel walks away, leaving Ellie stunned by his nonverbal actions. Later on, the Salt Lake City group finally arrives at Jackson and begin trekking their way through the territories to figure out a plan for what they're going to do next. In episode 2, we're introduced to a dream sequence. Abby has speaking with a twin version of herself, trying to convince herself not to go into the surgical room of the Salt Lake City massacre that Joel was involved in. Abby awakened from this nightmare, as well as noticing that the rest of the Salt Lake crew has awoken, and all of them wake up to their surprise to see that the town of Jackson isn't just a small little town, but to them, a large city with fortified soldiers and forces, which kind of scares them, and wants to convince Abby that perhaps maybe it might be best not to do this at all. Abby's not thwarted by this, goes out on patrol, hoping that Owen has a plan that'll work out for getting inside the fortress. Once Abby leaves, Owens reveals to the rest of the gang that the only plan he really truly has is to convince her not to do this at all. In our next scene, Jesse wakes up Ellie to get her ready for her patrol, which she's late for already, and gets to load on what happened last night at the Winter Ball, where Ellie reveals that she kissed Dina, which he already knew, but jokingly pretends like he doesn't know and acts jealous for a moment, only to joke around with her some more. The two finally head over to patrol duty and head out on their own trail, while Joel is out on his own trail with Dina on the opposite side of the mountain. Fearful of the imminent possibility of more infected roaming the area, Tommy sends out a large number of patrols to scour the area and just to be sure that there aren't as many as might be predicted out there. Up in the mountain trails, Abby stumbles upon a patrol pair out in the area and tries to follow them as far as she could. Ellie and Jesse stumble upon an old 7-Eleven. Feels that he used to work side by side with Eugene. He was a good friend to him at the time and still doesn't understand why Eugene was killed by Joel. Meanwhile, gun-toting enthusiast Abby stumbles down a hill and unfortunately finds herself right in the middle of a field full of frozen infected, which doesn't add any better feeling when she realizes that underneath them are actual real infected, and they all come crawling out, running right after her in hordes. Now I'm a little confused. I thought Abby and Ellie and all these other girls were girl bosses that can girl boss their way out of anything.
I believe I can touch the sky.
Right. So Abby finally gets to the end of this road, but has to be rescued by none other than, who could this be? It's Joel! The one person that she could possibly find out of this entire town, the person she's looking to murder right now. How convenient. But here we are. Abby is here and now is rescued by Joel. And along with him is Dina. As they try to find another way back to Jackson, Abby finally comes up with a plan to lure them back to the Salt Lake City crew is waiting for them. So, convincing them that they have weapons and guns that can perhaps help them in their endeavor. Concerned that Joel and Dina have not radioed in, Tommy radios anyone nearby to try and find which the message manages to get to Ellie and Jesse, who go on the other side of the mountain trail to search for them. They split up on different trails to look far and wide for them. Hour with the chase with Joel and Abby and Dina, the infected begin to swarm and go in a completely different direction when they sense the cordyceps fungus that is nearby the town where they live. The town is alerted. Defenses are up as the infected begin to rampage right towards the walls. Tommy alerts everyone, and everyone sets into motion to battle the infected. The first line of defenses work for a time, but unfortunately, Boda eventually breaches the wall, forcing Tommy and the crew to go to their secondary defenses with blow torches and corralling all the infected right into the middle and shooting them one by one. probably one of my favorite parts of this episode that really caught my attention was Tommy taking on the bloater and the badass sequence where he eventually corrals him into a corner and fries him to a crisp. So eventually the entire town overwhelms the infected and manages to get everything under control. So eventually everybody saves the day and everybody can go home. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, there's that other thing. Well, I hope everybody brought their tissues for this part. Here we go. Well, a good majority of you, if you've ever played The Last of Us Part 2, probably already know the ending of this particular sequence. So, but for those of you that probably have already been spoiled by the episode, all right, but I will spoil it here. And in case you haven't watched it, I don't know what you're doing here, but I'm going to just spell it out for you. Yeah, Joel doesn't make it here. A decision that Naughty Dog did in the video game is brought back to life here on the big screen. And I have to say, when I heard that Season 2 was coming, I had my misgivings about this. For one, there was a lot of backlash about The Last of Us Part 2, the video game, and a lot of fans were very upset with the choice to kill Joel. Now, personally, I thought it was a bold move when they initially did it. However, having a lot of context to a lot of different things that happened afterwards has changed my opinion of the events that led to this. This was probably one of the most saddest, tragic scenes that when I first saw it, I won't lie to you, I cried, and I felt deeply invested in this. And I was all for it when we thought we were getting a revenge story. I won't spoil the rest of the story. Who knows if they'll make further changes to it. But this was definitely a controversial decision that, to this day, a lot of fans were absolutely betrayed and very disheartened by this decision. I feel personally different about it now since I first saw this scene. And it doesn't sit well with me that Joel was treated this way. Personally, I would have loved to have seen him at least last till the end of the season, maybe not the end of the season, but at least the middle of the season. I thought that was what Naughty Dog was going to do here in the live action version, but nope. They stuck to the script and stuck to their guns and decided, nope, we're still going to do this. And of course, the backlash is still out there. So overall, my thoughts on the first 2 episodes. Like I said, I'm very familiar with the story because I have played the original 2 games and understand for the most part the context of why the story goes the way it does. In terms of the way the story is presented now a little differently, it does seem like they're diminishing Joel and his character quite a bit here, and probably still trying to at least perhaps try to strike some kind of balance with this and not completely destroy his characterization. However, this is Naughty Dog, and the way they've been treating a lot of their characters later on has been very controversial to say the least. For instance, Neil Druckmann went on record recently dismissing that there would never be a Last of Us Part 3, mostly because he could not take the backlash that he got from fans of the original video game when it came out years ago. And also, not to also diminish the fact that Naughty Dog went after YouTubers who actually were, criticizing the game, and they were banning them or monetizing them or for what they were saying online. And again, that is a grave sin you don't do to content creators here on YouTube in that way. They will talk back no matter how you do it. And thankfully, there are those out there still fighting that good fight about the way Naughty Dog treats its male protagonists these days. Well, those are the last points I wanted to make regarding The Last of Us and how everything has been going out. Again, I'm not going to say it's an awful 2 episodes. It's kind of above mid, just below good. Which is not much to say, believe it or not. Again, a lot of my feelings on this has to do with the fact of how Joel was treated. And that will never sit well with me. But there are bits and pieces where The Last of Us Part 2 does sit well with me, which I'll talk about as we go on with further episodes here. Otherwise, I'd like to hear what the rest of your thoughts are. Like, share, and subscribe, and you best better believe I'll be back.